Hello, guys. Welcome to the new episode of the Yes and No podcast. I'm your host, Matt, and I'm with my good friend, Arda. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Pretty good. So,
Nice.
what are we talking about today?
Well, I saw this video maybe a few weeks ago. It's this guy talking about slavery and basically says slaves work when they were awake like all day, and if
Mhm.
they can do it, I can do it too. And I don't know if you know that video. I don't know if I mentioned it, but that's something that we can talk about in terms of culture and in terms of how we are conditioned to work.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. I think I saw it. I mean, I just saw some stitches on TikTok. There's a lot of people like referring to that video, which is a guy. Yeah, basically was on a
It's
podcast.
crazy.
It was fucking crazy.
Like,
And he
just to
was
say
like,
that, it's like
he was like trying to say that you can work all the time, and whatever you're doing, it is nothing compared to slaves. And if they can do it, we can
I
do
can
it
do it.
too.
Yeah,
It is crazy, right?
yeah.
Um, but it kind of relates to a trend actually that goes for, I would say, a few years actually, about
What trend?
those coaches, those guys that are gonna explain how to be a millionaire and billionaire or whatever it is, and you
Mhm.
just need to put the work to it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then
And
they sell a product like a 10 steps video
yeah,
or
yeah.
like some
It's always
some
about
other
selling something. Like those guys are
nonsense.
actually
Yeah.
making money just by selling you something about how to make money. So they don't make money through their advices in terms of they tell you what to do to get money. No, it's just they're selling you
Yeah. I'm gonna
the
make
talk.
money first, but
Yeah,
I'm gonna teach you how to make money. But I'm
yeah,
gonna do it first.
yeah. It's just like if you work hard, you're gonna make money. But I'm gonna tell you how to work hard, but I'm just selling you something. I don't know. It's ridiculous. But just yeah, to refer to that guy, I don't know his name, and I don't know, maybe the context or
I think it's
whatever it was.
Alex Hormozy.
But I don't know. This refers to actually something that appeared a few years ago. I remember on YouTube there was this guy which was called Ty Lopez, I guess.
Mhm.
And it was what, 2016, 2017, I don't remember exactly, but he was one of those guys in the YouTube era where he was showing off. So basically, he was like, "Okay, this is the car that I have. You see where I'm living. Like, you need to read books." And he was giving you advices. He was teaching you to be a better person, a better um, commercial, I don't know, salesman or something like that, in terms of you can get money if you work hard, and look what I got. And there's definitely this trend. I don't know exactly how it's called, in terms of those guys selling you those programs and kind of coaches. But I think for me, that was the first one that I saw, which he has a platform. He was like a YouTuber back in those days. He was like filming himself. He was a vlog, and he was like, okay, so today I'm waking up at 4 a.m. and what I'm gonna do between 4 a.m. and 8 a.m. Is this, and after 8, I'm already off my day, and you're not even waking up. And, and this was so ridiculous because it was so cliche. It was such an American, stereotype of the guy with the eagle in the backgrounds and the girls in bikinis, and and he was like trying to sell you his way of life. And if you're not doing it, then you suck. All right.
That was kind of a sneaky marketing thing that a lot of people were doing with the cars and the girls, and it's lie, but I think was tapping something into people's mind to be like, I want that. And I also, now you're saying it the way that, like the cars and the girls and the house. Was the male thing mostly? Were there women doing it?
I think it was mostly men. Like, in terms of I'm not curating to that personally, but the one that I'm seeing most of the time is definitely male oriented. Like this guy was really famous on YouTube, and sometimes I'm seeing those small advertising, and it's mostly guys. But I think I saw a couple of TikToks too. I know I'm referring TikTok a lot. All right, I'm a TikToker,
Yeah,
guys.
yeah.
I'm
I mean,
sorry.
TikTok is yeah,
All
it's
right.
good. It's
And sometimes, yeah, I'm seeing those girls too that I think it's more about promoting a conservative way of life for their side. It's like, yeah, I'm a tough girl, I'm a boss girl, and this goes with my day, my Stanley Cup, and I'm taking care of the kids, but I'm also a working mom. All that, and it's less obvious with this idea of a guy, that is thriving in life because he has tons of girls and he can drive a Lambo or some shit. But I mean, it still
it was
exists, I guess.
another version of that, a
It is.
different version of it.
It's
Yeah.
more like, as I said, a more conservative idea of it, which is, not a stay at home mom, but she can manage everything, and she's doing it better than you. She got apps and she wakes up at 4 and she can take care of the kids, go to the gym, go do groceries, and then start her day. And then she's a boss, and then she comes back and she takes care of the family. That's type of things too. But I don't know. The cliche American blonde, suburb mom, something like that.
Why do you think people appeal to that? I don't know if it's just an American thing. I would doubt, but maybe it's a little bit different in France. Maybe it's different in Turkey. I would assume there are like similarities, a lot of similarities coming from the economy, the capitalism, what it, promotes. But what do you think about it? Why it appeals to people?
I think there's multiple factors to it. I think, as you said, there is a question about money. Definitely, like what they're trying to promote is a better way of living in terms of you're poor or you're not succeeding. And if you're doing those steps and you wake up and you do that, you're creating an environment for you to start in a better condition in order to be successful in your work, in successful in your family, in your life, and you get more money and then you'll be happier. I think the whole idea is you can thrive in life because if you succeed in every of those steps in how you manage your life, how you manage your work, how you manage your family, then you'll be fulfilled, you'll be happy, you know. But of course, personally, I think it's a lie. It's not because you're showing to others that you're doing something that you have more value or you're more virtuous, something like that. No?
Yeah, I am very actually. It makes me very uncomfortable when I hear celebrities or successful people go and say, "Well, you need to work hard," or they ask like, "What made you get where you get?" And they go like, "I work really hard, blah blah blah," and I'm like, "That's nonsense." Because yeah, you need to work hard to get there, but it's not an intrinsic property of success that you can say, I'm just because of that, you don't get successful. There are a lot of people working really hard, really smart, relatively. It's nothing to do with I don't think it's what makes someone successful, but they sell it that way. And they very much put emphasis on hard working rather than idiosyncrasies and like serendipities happening to them in their life. The moments. Some people just come into money. They born rich. They start have a different start, and some
Yeah.
people come from nothing. But I don't think just hard working is gonna make you successful.
I mean, that's something that is completely true in terms of um if you look at the data in general, it would say that yeah, sure, you have the same opportunity, maybe equal chance or something like that. But the reality is, yeah, you're coming from a nepo, you're a nepo baby. You're coming from this rich family. It's gonna be easier for you to be successful. I mean, whatever it depends on the work you're making. All right, and someone's coming from a poor family and he has struggles and he needs to get multiple jobs and also attend university or school or something like that, it's gonna be it's gonna be difficult, all right? But that not automatically means they're gonna be successful and they're gonna have like financial autonomy and they'll be free of hardworking their whole life. Um, it's definitely something in terms of the social condition where you're born in. But the idea, I think, it goes rooted to America in general, in terms of, there was this sense of back in those days, in the 50s, where people are going to say back in those days, which was like for the white middle class America. Yeah, if you're waking up, and you're building your life in a certain way, and then you go to work and you're working hard and you prove to people that you're working hard, then maybe you can be successful.
That's exactly what I was thinking. But I think it's not, it's the same thing. I think it's nothing to do with hard work. Back then, the distribution of the capital, the wealth in America was more going to lower classes. And they had the opportunities to build something for themselves and for the country. And that, I think, created the illusion, or maybe the delusion of, oh, like, we are working hard and then getting, something. And it doesn't work if you're getting like 7% of the whole wealth. It just doesn't gonna work that way. You're fighting for the crumbs. And that's what our generation is doing and the new generation is doing. I think that's the frustrating part of working, working, working and not being able to build anything. But
I
as you
mean,
said, the older generation didn't experience that.
if you look at Gen Z in general, people are gonna have like a tendency to say, well, they're not working as hard as before, or at 5 o'clock they check out, they're done. There's no way for them to work any longer, and that frustrated a lot of people. Maybe older millennials and definitely boomers, in terms of they thrive in that society back in the 80s, I would say. That, yeah, you work hard, but there is accessibility to wealth, there accessibility to the production that you were making. But today it's not. So when they're seeing people not laying back, but stepping back from that idea, that is creating kind of a frustration on their side, because they don't understand that, well, you have a shitty job, you don't make enough money, you have to have a second shitty job, you don't make money, and then the only thing that you want to do is go back home, and then when the clock is done, then you just leave. And I think it is really something polarizing nowadays, because this idea of the hustling culture and and this grind culture that people are trying to sell, I think it goes against this evolution in society, where people are maybe more cautious about the engagement in the work they're doing, because like working hard doesn't translate to being more successful. But those guys are trying to say that, yeah, actually, if you do it, you will be successful. And for me, that's where it doesn't really work anymore. And it's still interesting that you see those trends going on nowadays still, of people saying like, yeah, if you wake up at 3, and you do 20 push-ups, and then you go for a run for 1 hour, and then you come back, and then you do breakfast for 1 hour, and then you start working while doing your breakfast, and then you go to your job and you go to work, you're ahead of everybody already, and you be super productive, and then by 6 p.m. you go home and you go to sleep. But I don't know. I think it goes with that, with kind of a sense of social pressure to be better, you know, for society, for yourself too. And I think people don't agree with that, especially the younger generation.
And also, like, for what? Like, they are promoting working all the time. And yeah, some of them will be just work smart, structure your life accordingly and accumulate wealth. But for what? Like, sometimes I feel like the machine is just, we need to progress. We need competition. We need innovation. But for what? Like, if we are not becoming happier, if we are not improving the well being of humanity, society, like, why are we progressing? Like, why are we trying it that hard? It just, we sometimes forget it. I think there's something about trade and capitalism and the global economy that there is this arms race in some sense. There is this
Mhm.
competition, like, oh, you have a car, I'm gonna get a better car. I'm gonna get a better car. Um, and you can even see it in the military level of countries too. I will have a bigger military, bigger planes, faster, rockets. And
Who's the biggest dick?
yeah, it comes to that. So, I mean, for what? I don't get
I
it.
mean, I think it's as I said, I think they're selling two different things. There is definitely this point of making more money and be successful, but there's this second part to it, which is related to be a better person, a better version of yourself in some sense. Um, and displaying it and displaying your artwork can make people more confident and be maybe more grounded to who they are. But personally, I think they're losing themselves. You know,
Yeah.
there was this TED Talk hour that I was listening a few months ago, and it was an interview with Azim Sharif, which is a psychology professor in University of Columbia,
Hmm.
and he was talking about the perception of hardworking people, you know, in society.
Hmm.
So basically, this idea was there was this study where um, basically when we look at people, you know, and how they work, we have an assumption, you know, about their characters, about their moral character too. You see, and when they display a sense of working hard, then they're seen as more virtuous. So the example was this: if you take someone, right,
More
who
virtuous, you said?
yeah,
There's like a virtue. Okay.
yeah, yeah. I think it's a question of moral too. You know, I think
Hmm.
there's a question about self identity, but also morally how you be perceived in society and how you will engage with others in general. So the example was this: um, let's say you have a bakery when you sell bagels, right? And there's two bakers. There's one baker, and he's going to do like 100 bagels a day. He's going to bake 100 bagels in a day. All right. And you get a second one, and he's going to do the same thing. He's going to produce the same amount of bagels.
Bagels.
All right. So the thing is, the baker one, maybe it's easier for him. So he's doing the 100 bagels. It takes him, you know, the same amount of time, but it's easy for him because he knows how to do it, and it's something, you know, that he's not really struggling with. Whereas the second one is gonna be it's gonna be really difficult. I don't know. He's gonna fucked up some, you know, and he's gonna take more time maybe for some to be perfect. And you see that he's struggling. All right. I
Hmm.
mean, the way people are gonna perceive that is they're gonna be like seeing the second one, right, which is the as a hard worker person, right? Because
Hmm.
he puts the effort. I mean, he will feel that he's putting the effort to make those because he's struggling. I think there is this question about like because he's struggling and he's trying to be better, you know, it kind of bring this assumption that is better. And
It might be also because sometimes people don't see what's going on behind the curtain in some sense. The other one might be really efficient, what
yeah,
he's doing, and the other one not, but it looks like he's putting more effort into it.
exactly.
Like,
That's the
I'm
whole
making it like, yeah.
yeah, yeah, and that's the idea. So basically, if you were to ask someone to look into those two bakers, most of the people are going to be more intrigued by the second one because the struggle it will look as hardworking and it's going to be someone that you want to cooperate with. Like if you need to work with him, you know, it's going to be like, okay, this guy is putting the effort, so he's working better. So it's going to create this moral sense of, oh, that guy is better, right? And I want to engage with him. So that was the
Hmm.
whole conversation about this psychologist, and he was explaining those points, and he was also derivating to the idea that in society we engage in the same way. We want to have a romantic partner, that is better in terms of, if he's putting the effort, then it's a good partner. You can trust that person. It kind of
Yeah.
create this sense of trustworthy at the same time. And it means like it's morally better to look like you're hardworking. And people, there's double sense to it. I think there's one which is, maybe it's the struggle, that appeals to people, and maybe it's
Did
more.
he say from whose perspective this is? Because the reason I'm asking it, when I work with people, I look at the ones that is more efficient. Like if they finished it in an hour, the same work, and the other one takes 3 hours, like internally, if I can see it from the business perspective, I would go with the more efficient one.
No, it doesn't say anything about that. It actually.
Like, is it from maybe the society's perspective that sometimes when something takes longer, that looks more like this person is putting more work into it? That
I
the
think
perception of it.
it didn't go to details in terms of the process to be hardworking, but I think it's more generally the idea: if you put the effort more than other people, you will look more virtuous in that idea. So
Mm,
it's not the longer you take, it's not if you look physically, struggling or something like that. I don't think it's that question, but it feels like maybe it's a promotion too. Maybe it's a way you promote yourself on how you work. Like, oh wait, I spent so many hours to do this project. Look at how good it is. Maybe it's a way to promote yourself too. But people are gonna perceive most of the time, like I know you're gonna try to find more efficiency, but I think uh, there's this term which was coined by a journalist. I don't remember his name, but I think it was workism, which is
mhm.
this culture inside of work where you want to appeal to others and showing them, um, that you're working really good. It's almost goes to politics inside the work environment too.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Like today when I went to the coffee shop to get my coffee, there was this kind of like a machine that just drips water on the coffee and then slowly brews it. And
Hmm.
underneath it was saying like this takes like 8 hours to brew the coffee for our cold brew, which we use our finest, you know, coffee beans. And I don't know, like, would that be an example that just because it's like 8 hours, I would assume it doesn't change that much. I don't think consumers' taste buds are gonna recognize the difference between a regular cold brew and an 8 hour cold brew. Um, but just because it looks like there's more into it,
I
that
think
maybe the price range is a little bit higher than a regular cold brew.
yeah, I think you're right in that sense because, as you say, it looks more, you know, worked out in some sense. It feels like there's effort to it.
Yeah.
I don't think in the study that he was referring, it was a question about straight up time span. Because the example he was giving was they're doing the same work in the same amount of time. All right. But it
Mhm.
was more the struggle. So maybe, yeah, it's kind of referring to that. If you take a cold brew and a hot brew and you do it at the same time, maybe one it seems more complicated than the other one. But at the
Mhm.
end result, you have the same coffee, and I don't think people are gonna taste the difference really at the end of the day. Um,
Yeah.
I think there was a question about that. But what is intriguing is this question of morality in society, is how we perceive others putting the effort and we give them more value than others. And as I say,
Mhm.
it goes to romantic partnership, but it also goes to even friendship, relationship in terms of your friends in general. Like,
Mhm.
I think he was mentioning something about moving. You want to, connect with people that are trustworthy, and you know that if you need to move some stuff from your apartment, your couch or your bed, all right, then you can count on them. And it's a fallacy for me. It's definitely, as you said, if someone is good at it and is efficient, then what does it matter really that you see the struggle of someone and you give more value to someone that is struggling. I'm not saying don't give a shit at all, like they don't have value because they're struggling. No, I'm just saying like in terms of our perceived society, I'm not giving more credit to someone that is struggling, but is, you know, doing something, and someone that is really good at something and is doing it, and you have the same result. But one, because you struggle, I'm giving you more value. I don't understand that.
I mean, I don't know if I'm switching the topic a little bit, but I think society also sees, like, if you're good at something and you have a skill that you're really good at, you are better than others. That valued such a way that person is praised so much, that to me is also a little bit weird and nonsensical in some sense, because they might be really good at something, but we praise them so much. It's just sometimes makes like, does that make sense? Or we are just losing ourselves, or like trying to, like, it's almost that person becomes like God,
What do you mean? Like,
and
give me an example.
um, like, think about any successful person, Michael Jackson or Michael Jordan in basketball, Messi in football. I mean, maybe sports is a little bit different, but like, just because they are very good as a narrow, specific skill set doesn't mean they're better people. Doesn't mean that they have better skills of communication with people. They are more trustworthy. They are fair. And like the other attributes of social interactions. And most of the times they are not. They can be assholes. They can treat other people like shit. And we still see that as like, well, but dude, he is so good at music. He touches my soul when he plays football, like stuff like that. And then we are so impressed, we eliminate who they are. And that's what I'm trying to say. There is like this thing that's either sold us or we conditioned culturally, that if someone is really really good at something, they're like they're not like us, they're like someone else.
But don't you think those are super rare people? Like, we're not like in terms of how we behave in society in general. I don't think we're praising every people that are really good at everything. I don't think you ever praise someone that came to your house and fixed your faucet. It'd be like, wow, that guy was fucking crazy the way he changed my faucet. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? I think those are like maybe capitalism propaganda in some sense, being like, oh, look at him, he's kind of the hero, for the words. Like, you take the warrior that is the best, and you show, how is so incredibly good at what it is doing. And maybe, it's unfair for them, because we seeing them as, oh, I don't see the point of them being like that. But I think it goes back to the idea of you showing them as an example. Even though they may be not hardworking and maybe they're really good at what they're doing because it's in themselves, but I would say it's going to be politicizing most of the time. Be like, well, you want to be like him because you're not as good, you know, fundamentally who you are. You'll need to work hard to obtain the same level of what he's doing. He's a genius, he's really good at it, but because you're not, you'll need to work hard and even more just to try to obtain what he's doing. And I think
Yeah,
that's
and that
where
to
it
me
goes
doesn't
to
make
the.
sense. Like, that logic doesn't make sense, because I don't, again, like, I don't think Michael Jordan or Michael Jackson are who they are because they just worked hard. They worked hard, sure, but there were other things in them that made them who they are. I would say it's idiosyncrasies, serendipities. Like, they were at the right time with the right work with the right people. They born in a certain genetic composition, and their environment let them grow and build on that.
Mhm.
I cannot become Michael Jordan. Doesn't matter how much I work with the best coaches. I work. I cannot be that guy, and it's nothing to do with hard working. And they might be really good at something, that's fair, but also the I think that was interesting you mentioned about plumber, right? So when the if the guy is such a good plumber, like it's just like so good at it.
Mhm.
You watch him and then something touches your soul and then you go like, wow, like he did such a good job, right? Like you're gonna be the only person experiencing. There's gonna be a limited person of experiencing that skill set. But
Mhm.
when Michael Jordan goes out there and performs, there's like a lot of people watching it at the same time also. I think in nature, some skill sets are bringing bigger groups of people into that act,
Mhm.
so their values also changes in our society. Like if you go to a coffee shop, there's this food there, but there's only a certain amount of people can go and eat that food at certain times, and you will probably have lines outside, or you will need to get reservation to get into that restaurant if it's like so good, but it's still a limited person in a uh expand of a time, right? It's not going to be like Messi, that millions of people watching him play the final game of, say, World Cup. And it is valued differently, of course. um but again, he is just good at one skill. Like there are so many aspects to life,
Wait,
and I'm
how do
not
you
saying you
know?
should. Huh?
How do you know?
That he is good at one skill?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he's really good at having sex too. I don't know.
Ah, come on. I knew you were going to say that. I was thinking about it
Is
too.
that what you're?
No, I'm not
Is
referring to
that?
that. I'm referring to maybe I don't know. He's a computer nerd or something. Maybe he likes to do
Oh, we don't
computers.
know.
Exactly. And I
We
think
don't
that
know.
that goes also to this idea of reflecting about you need to perform in one specific skills. So either you're really good at it and you're a genius as he is, maybe, but also then the rest doesn't matter because you need to promote and you know explain to other that this is the way to do it and this is what you need to do it, and for that you need to work hard but only on the specific like domain or something like that.
But what do we know is, I think when you present people similar educations, similar tools, similar opportunities, I would assume, like what I would think would happen is you will get a bell curve that a lot of people actually are good at doing things. And there is going to be some people standing out, and there are going to be some people are really not good at it. But most of the times, I would say most people would be good at many things in life if you will present them the tools and the opportunities to get good, to be good at. I don't think we approach it that way in our economic system when it promotes like if you are really good at something, like best of that thing, there's no limits. As long as people pay you whatever they determine the value of your skills, like it's just there's no roof on that. It'll just goes up and up, and it just gives so much power to those people. Again, I'm not saying that they shouldn't have valued, but I think it's unproportional.
But don't you think actually that's why those, like as we said at the beginning of the conversation, those people promoting, hustling culture or grinding culture, like don't you think that's what they're doing? Like they say, okay, be
Some
better
of
in,
them.
but not at one aspect. Is like every other aspect of your life. It's like be better with your physical appearance, be better with your family or your way of living. Like that's why they're saying is like be the best in your work, but be the best at everything else at the same time. And whatever you start, do it, finish it, be better in what you're doing it. But I think what you're referring to is interesting. Is what is the limit then? Like when do you think you achieve that level of okay, this is the best level I can get? Because sure, you'll never be like if you start playing soccer or football, like you'll never be on top. Like especially right now with your age, your physical condition, you suck, dude. I'm kidding, but you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
Like
I
it's
know it's
it's
true.
difficult. Like you're not coming from a 20 years old body, boy, and that can do whatever he wants. Like he will take not just effort, you will definitely never gonna be able to achieve that. um so then where do you put the limit to it? Like, when do you think, okay, it's successful enough of what I'm doing, of I working hard and I'm achieving this?
Yeah, I don't think there is, like an economist would say, it depends on the demand. I would say, in the free market, if people wants it, if people value it and put the money there, it's valued. We cannot put a limit to it. But
Then what do you mean? Like, you value other people too? That means like you're
no, like
just
let's say, yeah, go
no.
on.
That means like I think it's interesting too. Is like, so if you're trying to overachieve and you're working hard for yourself and also to improve your image or whatever you're working on, that means also you're creating value for yourself in regards of other perspective about you. I think it's interesting too. Like, the idea of being better, and I think social media and all that covers that too, is like you're trying to promote yourself in order to receive back a perception from others saying like, wow, you're such a cool or great person, you can achieve everything. It's the same point of view that people watching football and they're like, wow, Messi is the greatest player ever on earth. But it's on your scale, basically. It's like, oh, well, Arda is such a cool and amazing person because I can see he struggled, but he's doing everything and all of that, or he's putting the effort in every aspect of his life in terms of what he's doing outside, his job, but also his relationship and the people that he's hanging out with.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be valued, in society. I would say that
Why?
it would be
You know?
it would be normative. It would be like, well, you should do that anyways. You know, that's I
But
think most people would see it like, well, you need to take responsibilities. You need to work. You go out and be nice to other people and be fair. And yeah, of course, that's like normal. Like everyone should do that. There's nothing special almost into that.
the reality is like we know exactly what's going on is it punishes us. Like, if you put too much pressure, if you put too much effort, if you're trying harder than and harder and hard to what your limit can be in terms of your physical health or mental health or whatever you need to achieve something, then it punishes, like society punishes you because you need to still show to others and you still need to show society that you're trustworthy and you are predictive and you're a hardworking person. And I think that's something that is bad, obviously. But
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think this whole idea of trying to be a better version of yourself and trying to be better than others in the society that we're living in and like pushing the effort in terms of hard working, it just goes back to something that goes against who you are. I'm not saying like, oh, you should be lazy, but if you're who you are and you work in a certain way and you achieve what asked about you, then it's enough. Like, you don't have to be more than that and putting yourself so much pressure. And this could affect your mental health, it could affect your family or the people that you're engaged with in your daily life. I don't know, I think it's something that is to be considered, and we're trapped in the society right now, um, with that idea that, oh, we need to be better.
yeah, I think in human history, there were some components of being better at some skill or being better at something that has a value. I think in any culture, people valued that, but I think they also valued day to day behaviors and acts of people too in that community. That's virtuous too. Like, what type of a person are you? Are you a good person? Are you doing good deeds? Like, that was very, very important too. And I don't know if it's because of the economic system we are in that's affecting the culture. People are more individualistic, but that sells in some sense, I guess. Like, when you're really, really good at something, that sells. Like, you can make a lot of money with that too.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't think so. I
No.
don't think, like, personally, from who I am and what I lived in my life. I don't have a real career in some sense. I struggle with some part of ADHD, all right? And
Yeah.
I couldn't stay in a normal job situation for a long time. And I made so many things, and I'm an entrepreneur. I created so many businesses, and some of them worked. Like, this can be a whole other conversation about it worked or not, and what was my perspective in my brain in terms of, okay, I think I achieved something. But um, was I super successful about it? Never. And even though I put in more effort than anybody that I can meet on a daily basis, I have so many skills that allows me to create stuff really easily and more than someone that maybe it's even his job or her job. And but I never capitalized on it in terms of getting money really out of it. And I had one actually a good example in terms of the work system that I was in. Back a few years ago, I was working for Apple, and I was working in this opening of a new store in Paris, which was the second Apple store there was in France. And I came back from the US and I was looking for a job and I applied, and they hired me. Great. And the big thing was I was super knowledgeable about everything Apple was doing. I was not a fan of Apple, particularly, but I my first computer was a Mac, all right, an Apple one or something like that. My father always had Apple computers, so I knew everything since I was born in the 80s, right? And so regarding my knowledge, regarding someone that never touched a Mac before and got hired at the same time, like you can see my knowledge was definitely higher, right? And I was really good at what I was doing. I was helping people, I was teaching lessons on softwares. I was helping companies to implement some stuff and strategies for their computers parks in general. And at the end of the day, I was trying to get in a better position, getting a raise, and having a better, you know, job post basically and title. And I struggled to get that. I was, I had like feedback which were amazing. People loved me and everything, but I never played this idea of, oh, I didn't know anything and now I know everything. I never played the internal politics of the company. And I saw people getting my job in some sense, not my job that I was doing, but the one that I was applying to. And it felt wrong for me because like I was working hard. I had definitely, some skills and I was knowledgeable. Great. Those were the easiness part of it. But I was seeing someone that was not even struggling either, but he was really good at talking with the bosses and managers. And they were just passing in front of me. And I was like, it was such an experience for me that was visceral in terms of I struggle with it. I left the company, I quit it, and I left the company because of it. And I after that, I think I never really had a corporate job, if I would say. And for me, I never got that sense of, sure, it is easy and I can achieve, I can make more money, I can do this. And even if I'm working hard, which is in some sense what I'm doing, it's not because of the easiness or the efficiency that I was doing. I'm not putting in the effort either. I never felt like I deserved anything and nobody gave me anything at the same time. And in terms of money, in terms of whatever endeavor I was working on, that never translated into more money and more success in general.
But I don't know how it's connected to what I said
No, no,
before.
you said in some sense too. It's like the way you put your mind to it. You can also be more.
No. No, that's not what I was saying. I was saying at some point, I felt like maybe I'm wrong, but at some point in society and civilization, people valued virtues day to day life. Being a good person is valuable. Like it wasn't make you do maybe wealth,
Okay.
but
Mm.
um I think it was valued culturally, who you were as a person. Like, I think to a degree we do that too, but
Yeah.
in that gloria and the luxury of things, like we look at a sliver of some celebrities' lives, and then we are bought in, and we are like, wow, these are like amazing people. Like I love them. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're like shitty people actually.
But
And
that's
yeah,
exactly what you said. Like
yeah.
today, we're giving value to people only by how they show themselves to the world in terms of how they're trying to market the idea of how they work or who they are in terms of a product almost, as you say, like
Mhm.
take a Kardashian or something like that, or
Yeah.
whatever star there is like, do they
Yeah.
really produce something? No. Yeah, they're selling stuff, but they produce something? No, they were the product of TV, and they are trying to show the world that they have value because of this reason.
And I think a lot of people associates with that with hard and smart working. Like they're not and smart working, we can get into that though, but they work hard. Like Kim Kardashian, like she worked hard to get where she is,
Yeah,
you
she
know?
made a sex tape. That was pretty hard, I guess. I mean, mostly on the
Still, a
on the
lot
other
of
on the other
people
guy.
who love her would say, like, no, Matt, it's not just a sex tape. She worked. She kind of like built this,
Empire.
thing for herself, Like I think there will still be a lot of people arguing that in society.
But
Um,
what I don't like in this idea is there's a question of merit too, about like deserving success or deserving something. I think it goes
yeah,
to that
yeah.
too in some sense. There's like this concept that we're using a lot in France, all right, which is called meritocracy, which is like the way we promote working or be invested in something is going to give you more value, right? And you'll
Mhm.
deserve something better because you play the game in some sense. It's a fallacy, obviously, like it's not like, as we said before, like it really depends on your social context and where you were born and what you're doing, but it feels
I mean,
like
I can go a step further and be like, it's just luck to
it
me.
is some, I would agree. But the way the
Like,
politics in France are
yeah,
trying to reframe it is like, well, no, it's not luck. If you work hard or if you are doing this in a certain way, then you'll deserve something, right? And
yeah,
you'll be able to obtain it. Not just obtain it, but then you'll deserve it. All right. But
yeah,
if you don't play the game. You don't play the capitalistic idea of working hard or being invested in your company, invested in your job, invested in your life and your consumerism, then nah, you don't deserve it. And what I hate is if you take that at the same time, they are the one who gonna promote Kim Kardashian, those type. Like, do they deserve it? Like, does she deserve like the billion that she's making? Or her sister or something like that, because Kim Kardashian made a sex tape and then she became famous and then she did like reality TV. Then one of her sisters like deserve to be a billionaire by 30 years old.
I mean,
I
some
don't know.
people
Who's they gonna praise that?
I mean, just people. I think Kardashian is an interesting example because I would also say, well, there are a lot of people who does sex tapes, but they're not getting where she is, right? But she also sells um, this lifestyle too, in some
Mhm.
sense. I think on top of that, maybe it was like the beginning of a lot of people recognize her. I think Kardashians, like because of her father, also were somewhat known, and their family was somewhat known, right? And then she, like maybe like Paris Hilton in some sense, that recognized. But then she sold this lifestyle too. I think some people just likability to them, it creates a demand too, and then people capitalize on that. Like just because a lot of people like Kardashian and Kardashians and their lifestyle, and then want that lifestyle, maybe it's they're fantasize that in some sense. That's where they're making their money.
Oh yeah, yeah, I totally agree. I think, and that's also a problem. Personally, I would think like
Hmm.
if you were looking
I
at
think so
beauty
too,
in
but
general before the
free
Kardashians,
market.
and if you're looking at beauty right now, uh, in terms of what we think someone is beautiful, definitely the Kardashians influence some part of society, and I would say even more in terms of how we consume stuff. I think they are selling this idea for sure. 100%. Like the way girls wear drawing their eyebrows or doing this type of makeup or lip fillers or butt fillers or some stuff like that. I think those like Kardashians had a big influence of how some part of the culture nowadays is based on. And the idea of you will be more beautiful, you have a better life, or you'll be successful if you follow that idea. So if we go back to the hustling culture, like they're not as, I don't think they're as much as those influencers online. They say, oh, you need to wake up at 4 a.m. and do this and you'll be successful. But in this idea, they're selling the same thing. They're selling a lifestyle. They're selling like, if you are buying my makeup, if you're buying my clothes, if you're uh, combing your hair in a certain way, if you do lip fillers, then you'll will obtain the same way of what I'm doing with my life. You'll get the nice mention, you'll get the beautiful boy, and you'll get the nice car. At the end of the day, they're still selling the same concept, I would say.
I mean, if I would say anything to people who is watching it, I would say they're not better than you. They're just good at something very specific, but they're not good at better than anybody. I think they might be even worse for some. And that's why I said through this conversation multiple times that I don't think successful people are successful just because they worked hard. I think again, idiosyncrasies, the right moments of life, and also l- luck plays a big role. And I say luck in the sense of there are some probabilistic nature to things that people born with certain genetic makeup, they born in certain families and environments and meet with certain people, and whatever they have, they of course put work. You need to practice to improve your skill set. But if you don't have those foundations, you are not going to get there. And those people, they're just good at things. Like my father, he's a volleyball player, right? And this is something that I recognized early age. He's a volleyball player and he's very good at what he does. He was one of the best of his generation. He's a setter, and in the volleyball circles, everybody knows him. Well, a lot of volleyball players influenced by him. Okay, growing up, I idealized him too. I played volleyball. I wanted to be like him. I wanted to be successful in volleyball. And there was a point that I remember this distinctly, that we were in the kitchen. He's like heating up food, and we talked about some things. And I asked him, like, in my mind, I was thinking I need to ask him. Maybe it's a good time to ask him, like, how did he become the best volleyball player? Because in my mind there is a way to get there, it, hard working and working in a way that will get you there, right? And I asked him, hey dad, like, how did you become the best volleyball player in Turkey? Like, what did you do? What made you stand out? His reaction was this. He was like, I don't know. And I was like so fucking surprised. I was like, how
I
you
have
do
no
not
clue.
know? Like, how do you not, like, you need to, there should be something you did, like, it was so frustrating. That moment of like, I don't know, was like, how do you don't know? And then he thought about it a little bit. And then he comes up with, well, I was very consistent with the way that I was setting the ball. Like, I was able to set the ball exactly where I wanted. And I also did things the other players didn't do. I was trying to be original with my game. But one of the examples that he gave me was like each hitter had a way of hitting the ball. And I was good at recognizing their styles, and I was capable of setting the ball to them that way. But he was also good at reading the other team. But he also grew up like his my grandfather. He was a editor. He wrote books. He translated books. And back then, he translated books from Russian volleyball books, Chinese volleyball books, the English versions of them, of describing the styles that they were playing, because they were the top teams back then. And that he learned certain techniques, certain tricks in the game. And he taught them how to apply that because he was also the coach of my father's team. So he also had the chance to work with this guy who is very intellectual and literate to learn those things. But he was also capable of applying them on the ground. I don't think it's just working hard is going to do it. And that's where I realized that it's not just enough like to work. And then I get to an age, and I was at that the major league. I'm physically not there. Like there are dudes like going on top of the net, like putting their hands in. They're like so high and so physically dominating, like it doesn't matter how much technique you're just gonna fail in front of them. And this is sports, like maybe other industries, other works may not require that rigid, qualifications. But still, I think many of them, when it comes to performance, especially, has those things. But anyways, like that was the story. That was the first time I think I was like, how you don't know how you become the best in something. And I feel
But
like a lot of them don't really know. They're just justifying in their brain, like, this might be the reason. Like,
but then how society came to put more value on that.
I mean, I think that's to me, it's more of the story behind it, the fantasy aspect to it. You're selling a lifestyle like that we talked. And I think people buy that idea of if I will work hard, I can be that. They believe that. Why?
So yeah, why capitalism? Uh, no, but
Yeah. Yeah.
just to go back to the TED talk, that I was mentioning, I think they actually did another experiment, which was in a tribe, like that was not touched by society, and
Mhm.
there's something interesting that came out from it is how do they give more value to people, which actually they didn't use value, which is interesting. um but they were using something like having a good heart, and there was two parts to it. There was one which is in some sense hard working, like putting effort for sure, you know but the second one I think was interesting. It was also about generosity, because what we forget right now, and I think it's interesting, is we're putting value on people working hard, like doing everything all the time, and it kind of create that social pressure. But we forget also that it goes to the interaction that we have with others. And I would put more value to someone if I'm getting a coffee that is nice to me, that I have a nice conversation, that could be generous,
Yeah.
being like, oh, you know what, I giving you that one because I messed up or something like that. I will give you more value to that person. I would be more trustworthy of that person if they act like that, more than if I'm seeing them, behind the counter doing so many things at the same time, being like, wow, that person's struggling. And I think this question of generosity, I think it's kind of interesting, that in those tribe aspect to society, as we can reflect how we were before, empire and imperialism in general, I would say. I think it's interesting, this idea of generosity to give more value, because to go back to those examples that we mentioned about footballers or Kardashians or something like that,
Mhm.
like I don't see good in them, you know. Like I don't give value to their success in some sense, and their financial success. And I'm seeing mean people that trying to act in a certain way to look good to others. But to me that doesn't work. And if they were acting more in a generous way, or helping people, or getting more involved with something, that can change days into people's life, but in a better way, I will give them more value, or I'll give them more credit to them in general. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, definitely being generous or having certain qualities to someone's personality. I think that's something that we should value too in society, but also with celebrities or people who are good at what they're doing too. That we sometimes, I think, if you look at it from the capitalistic perspective, if you're selling something, that celebrities' behaviors, like if it's a little bit contradicting or creates drama, a lot of people show attention to that. So it's like just to pull the attention of people. And if you're a nice person, if you are, as you said, a giving person, and that personality not always sells, which I don't know. I think we should be more leaning into those people, culturally, socially. Valuing those is very important. I think it's the demand. If we would demand drama, if we would demand conflict, and then yeah, they're gonna bring us that. The people are gonna sell us that. Yeah,
That sucks.
yeah, I know. I
Yeah.
know. I was also going to talk about something else that's like it's almost like there's like this small group of people, mostly men probably, who has the power, right? Who has the
Mm.
control and the power. I don't know if we talked about it in previous podcasts, but as much as we want to demand things, they are also trying to create demand sometimes. Like the people who owns the media, news outlets. I think in 90s, 80s when the globalism and the capitalism were peaking and like the internet was coming, but not like today. They really pushed certain things. Like even like I'll just give an example. For example, like the news anchors. Like they had a look. Like if you're a woman, you have a look.
Mhm.
If you're a man, you have a look and an attitude in some sense, or commercials too. Like they dictated a lot about who a man is, like what women do in society. Like a lot of things were determined by them, and I think that tradition still carries on today. But we have maybe a little bit more access to internet, TikTok, Instagram, social media, YouTube. We have more access to individual experiences and more reaction to those social constructs in some sense. But I still feel that these forces are in fight, and I still feel like that old traditional, like I'm gonna create a demand. I'm gonna create. If you have a car, if you have girls, that's cool. Or if you are like looking sexy and doing this type of a makeup, you're cool, and stuff like that. Which you're not, but still, I don't know.
No, I'm not putting makeup that much. uh, but so, like, I think we derivated a little bit from the
Did you see
point. But
Hassan recently? I think he put a.
yeah, the emo. So, but okay, let me frame.
Anyways.
Um, so like, I think we derivated a little bit from the conversation, but I think it's also a good point that you're making. Like, is there a switch in society right now where we value more coolness than the idea of capitalism? Do you think this is a counterculture in terms of the culture about hard working was to get money, but Gen Z, millennials, we got fucked, all right, about that.
Yeah, I think we were kind
And
of reacting to that more and more, that it's not everything. You don't
yeah,
have to work so much.
but then are we switching to this idea of coolness again? Like, oh, you need to be cool and you need to be like that, and
I
you need
think
to
that
work hard
part
in order to go to that point. Because like now
I
we
think
value
that part
more
we're
that.
experimenting. I would say we're experimenting. I think a lot of millennials and Gen Zs who want to do things in their life rather than just work. Because if you don't work all the time, you would like to do things. And like that, how it manifests itself is more like, what am I doing if I'm not working? I'm traveling, painting, going out with friends, hanging out, doing
Hiking.
sport. So I think we have like this, all of these things, and then there's this coolness factor to it, definitely. Looking good, being the best version of self, and then that I think translates to the mindfulness, like self awareness,
Yeah.
uh, therapy, and psychology. That too, which I think to a degree it's good, but you can also find yourself in astrology all of a sudden.
Don't get me
It's
started on astrology.
zodiac, and I'm like feeling good this month. I don't know what's gonna happen next month, but
Is there Mercury retrograde or not? I saw a TikTok today, which was a guy saying like, "Well, there's no planet in retrograde, so if you fucked up, it's your own fault." So, but I think it's still interesting because I was going to mention that too. Like, like there's a question of value. I think it's mostly coming from other perspective, because sure, be a better version of yourself and trying to understand yourself on a deeper level. There's value to it. I think the value is for yourself, but I don't think it's someone that on the other side, or someone exterior to who you are is going to look at you and be like, "Wow, that guy really worked well with his therapist." I can see the chances. Great for him. I'm so praising him right now because he went to therapy and he learned so much. No, I don't think it is. I think this whole idea about hard working and the value that we put in terms of the effort that you're doing, I think it just goes to how you perceive yourself and how you want to be perceived by others in general. I think this is why it can be applied not just about a hustling culture, but as we said, about coolness and also about self empowerment and self improvement, also in terms of even of your psychology. There's a need, I would say, for society to step back from it in general. And we know that it sucks. Capitalism doesn't help us. Like it's not because you're working hard that you're gonna get more money, that you're gonna get the best wifey and you're gonna get the best card. No, today it's pretty difficult and it's just a struggle for struggling. And on the other side, there's a switch to this idea of who you are and market yourself so you can get a better feedback from others being like, wow, you're such a cool person. You're doing so much. You're traveling and you're doing this and you're an entrepreneur and I think it's self gratitude in some sense in order to make you feel better. So it always goes to the same ideas like how you project yourself toward others and how they reflect back to yourself. I think the more you get out from it, I think the better your you will feel in general. Like as we say, there's so much pressure regarding work, and it can affect who you are, your entourage, and your health, and even your psychological health and behaviors. And I think the other ones goes also back to social media that we talked in another episodes. Um, it also create pressure on yourself in that sense too. And I think getting rid of that pressure, getting rid of this idea of how people perceive me, I think it's just liberates yourself. It's freeing yourself out of all of that. I don't think that at this moment, hustling or hard working is important at all. The only success that you can have, right, is to to be better on your own, have sympathy for yourself and being generous.
yeah, yeah. Hopefully, it's maybe one day it will be different, and people won't, spend their lives just work, and they would see some value in life, and they would have better lives, stable, that they can do the things that they want to do. And that's, that sounds utopic sometimes, maybe, that when people even think about, like, is it even possible to have that? I think it is. I think as long as humanity wants that, understands being able to live a life that's fulfilled, and then you can spend time with your loved ones, spend time with yourself, and not maybe living a luxurious, uh glorified life, but being able to do the things that you loved, like art or traveling or doing things that you enjoyed. Low key, you don't have to be, again, like the. I think that's satisfying life, but we don't have that in society. I don't think a lot of people feel that they're having that life. And I think it's unfortunate that they believe that if only they work hard and if only they become so successful and famous and rich, they are going to get it, which is not true.
I think people should give more value to their meaning of life than giving value to others.
Yeah, someone else's meaning of life.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, I mean, I think we should slowly wrap it up. Thanks
Yep.
for everything, for all of your thoughts. I think it was a great conversation. Thanks for anyone who is watching this and hopefully enjoying. And please follow us on any social media that we will be on YouTube, Instagram. Give us some feedback about your thoughts. And my name is Arda. I'm your host, and this is my good friend Matt. And we'll keep doing this.
Have a good one. Bisous.